Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Power podcast, where we explore the many facets of feminine power and why it is so important for women and for men to step into this power in our world at this time. This is Emmy from Feminine Revered, and my beautiful guest for today is Miriam J. Katz. Miriam is a practicing mystic who works with the divine essence of those she serves to open pathways of soul remembrance and transformation. As co-founder of the School of Hebrew Shamanism and the Goddess Grail Mystery School, she works as a modern-day priestess, guiding seekers, mystics, and healers into alignment with their highest truth and sacred purpose. As a shamanic healer, a technician of the soul, Miriam works with your indwelling divinity to resolve soul loss, karmic and ancestral patterns, traumatic emotional imprints, cellular memories, limiting beliefs, and vows that inhibit the full expression of soul power. As an intuitive, she accesses the Akashic records to reveal each client's most relevant soul challenges and gifts, dissolving blocks to release their innate wisdom and divine capacities. That all sounds so very yummy. I'm so glad to have you on the show, Miriam. Welcome.
Thank you, Emmy. I'm so honored to be here with you.
It's a blessing to have you with us, and I am super excited to see what emerges in our conversation today. But before we dive any deeper, since my podcast is called Sacred Feminine Power, I'd love to hear from you. What does this term mean to you personally?
Sacred feminine power is an essential part of who we are, and it's a part that has been de emphasized or disowned for millennia. And it is an energy that is rising now. And so it is so heartening to talk about it right now because each of us has this animating spirit within us, which to me is the divine feminine. If I'm looking to Hebrew tradition, it's known as Shekhinah, she who dwells within. And it's what makes us who we are, what gives us the capacity to birth, to create, to destroy. And birthing can happen in all different ways. It's not simply a feminine, body that can birth a human life, but birthing can happen through any body because all of us have that divine feminine inside of us. So whether we're birthing a project, an idea, a movement into this world, we all can harness and channel that divine feminine that we are.
Mm. Yeah, that is so very true. An important point to make that we all have that feminine energy or essence within ourselves, whether we are women or men, and can learn to harness that in many beautiful ways. I have a feeling we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, but I would love to hear from you, Miriam, a little bit more about your own journey and specifically about a challenge that you may have met on your path that's really helped you to activate the sacred feminine power within you.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time diving into the roots of my own tradition. I grew up Jewish, and so as I studied shamanism, I started looking at who were the shamans in my lineage, and I co-created this school called the School of Hebrew Shamanism. And in that work, the more that I journeyed to connect with those ancient shamans and mystics, the more the goddess appeared. And so the goddess began calling me into action, into sacred service. And a big part of that was research and direct contact, directly shamanically journeying with these ancient Hebrew goddesses. And the one who brought us into this conversation is Tehom. So Tehom is a cognate of Tiamat. She's a facet of the dark goddess. She's a watery, dragony type goddess, the salt water, not the fresh waters. And I was teaching a class that was about all of the different goddesses in Hebrew shamanism. And each month there was a different goddess. And when I came to Tehom, the goddess of the deep, Tehom literally means deep or depths. She pulled me down in a way that was embodied, physical, emotional, everything. And I could not do anything. And for, a mother, a wife, a teacher, a healer, all of the different like labels and jobs that I have in this world, I had to put every single one of them down because Tehom pulled me down in a way that made it impossible to go about my daily life, to keep up with my commitments. I had to cancel my sessions, which feels awful, like to let people down, to reschedule without even knowing if I would be able to make it in another month or two. So this was several months when we were studying the goddess Tehom that she pulled me down into her depths. And there was a shedding process, a shedding of my attachment to my earthly creations and to my earthly jobs. And when I reemerged, I was in a deeper, more connective place because she helped me to shed these labels or that level of these labels in my identification with mother, wife, teacher, healer, all of the things that I was carrying. I was able to put those down for a while. I wouldn't have done it by choice, but it really helped me to emerge as more of my own essential nature that was less oriented towards the outward persona that I had developed for this world.
Sounds like a very potent underworld journey that you went on there.
It really was. It really was kicking and screaming, but but it was for the highest good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there usually is a highest good or some sort of a blessing that arises after we have done our descent and then start to ascend again from the depths, no matter how painful or dark or difficult or challenging that journey may have been. You already alluded to this a little bit, but would you share a little bit more about the blessings of that challenge as well?
The blessings of the challenge of the descent to the underworld.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's I guess the image that's coming up to talk about this is the yin yang, right? So we generally operate in the day world, in the realm of Inanna, which is the middle world and the upper world. Inanna is the queen of heaven and earth, and this is the way that we're born and socialized into this world, that we need to be that person who is front facing, who is of the light, who brings joy into people's lives. And we end up pushing a lot of our darkness into the underworld and disowning it. And the reason the yin yang is coming up as the image here is because the light is also hiding in the darkness, and the darkness is also hiding in the light. And so when we descend to the underworld, which we can choose to do willingly, or we can be dragged down to do kicking and screaming, and I've had my share of both, and many of us have. But when we go down there, we start to discover the parts of ourselves that we've disowned, which are often the key to our greatest power. So whether we were too much, too big for our britches, or whatever you might have been told by your caregivers, that may have made us release and suppress different aspects of ourselves. When we go down to that underworld, we can find these parts of ourselves and these gifts that we've put in shadow. And this particular moment in the you could call it ascent of humanity, but I would call it the descent or incent of humanity, because we are going inward. This is a time to reclaim our gifts, to reclaim our power, and to re-examine, who have I been out in the world, and is this true to me? And if it's not, if there are essential parts of who I am that I have not owned and that I have not taken stock of and that I'm not honoring, then I'm only walking around there as a half person. I'm not honoring the fullness of the divine being that I was created to be. So descent is an essential part of reclaiming the wholeness, the totality of who we are.
Mm. So very true. And I love how you're bringing in the collective here as well, because it really does feel like we as humanity are descending or ascending, as you just said, in a major way at the moment. And a lot of us are doing it kicking and screaming indeed. And then there are those who are perhaps a little bit more aware of what is happening in terms of the bigger picture on our planet and beyond, and are willingly doing those deep dives in order to claim those gifts and those blessings as well. But it is quite an intense time to be living on this planet at the moment. And I think all of us are feeling it at various degrees inside our physical bodies. Our bodies might be changing quite dramatically and drastically at the moment. Our thoughts are changing, the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about humanity and the planet. A lot of people are changing in terms of that as well. Are you seeing that amongst your clients and in the overall atmosphere, so to speak, as well?
Yes, I'm seeing a lot of despair. I'm seeing a lot of grief that was pushed down, and that is emerging. I'm also seeing people waking up and walking around a little stunned and dazed, like as if you'd fallen asleep in the sunlight, right? Or at night, and then wake up and there's sun everywhere, and it's like being a little bit dazzled by the vision that is emerging of the unseen realities that we've been taught to deny and to mock and to belittle. So it can be quite disorienting to wake up to these realities. And so those of us who have been studying the mystical traditions, the art of intuition, of feeling into that which maybe the eyes can't see, but the heart can know, are here as leaders, as people who are one step ahead, maybe, of those who come and find you. And so I'm speaking to your listeners because those who are tapped into this energy are already on that cutting edge of evolution. And so if you're listening to this message, you're here for a reason, and know that as each of us is sorting through our own pain and our own, bundles that we stored in the dark, that light is there within you as a guide for others, as a way shower. And so I really honor you for being here and for doing your own soul work and for being a light to others.
Blessed be. Yeah, that's a beautiful message. Thank you. Thank you, Miriam, for that. How can Tehom help us in these times of change and transformation? How would you recommend that we could perhaps connect with her and start working with her?
Yeah. So the beauty of Tehom is she's kind of this amorphous goddess. Like we get used to these anthropomorphized goddesses who look like humans and all of these things. Tehom is none of that. She is the depths. And she is a place within ourselves. And when you look at the ancient Kabbalah, the ancient Hebrew mysticism, she is based in our womb. And so she is that cosmic power to create and also to destroy. Our womb is not just something that births, it also is a tomb, right? And so these powers of life and death, of creation and putting things to bed, these inhabit these lower spheres of our body. And so women have this special connection to it, but men also have, what you could think of as the sacral chakra, this place of creative power, of sexuality. And so what I would invite people to do is to really sink into their own inner deep belly space, this place that, according to ancient shamanic Kabbalah, is associated with the element of water, and to allow yourself to move into there and to feel. And, as we talk about reclaiming that which has been disowned, a lot of it are the emotions that were not comfortable for us to go through. Maybe we were shamed for crying or, for feeling too much. And this process of investing in your own emotional landscape and giving it the opportunity to clear out and to work through you is a powerful practice. And so when you have the time, when you have the space, maybe you're alone, Maybe you want to do something different than your usual spiritual practice, to just allow yourself, your awareness to sink down into that watery womb within you, whatever your anatomy, and to just feel and to allow it to move through, because emotions are energy in motion. And once we allow that old stagnant story, that old stagnant stuckness to move through us, we're able to move into the present moment in a way that is full and embodied, and we have more resources available to us. So it's the emotional equivalent of clearing out your closets,
Mm.
but the closet that you're clearing out is this sacred space of creation and destruction. Like, there is so much power and potential that is available to you within your own body.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything that you're saying there, Miriam. And yeah, again, we have been taught to, we've been programmed to forget the power of our bodies and this alchemical healing abilities that we all hold within these 3D physical bodies of ours. And I would love to know a little bit more from the perspective of your studies, both especially in terms of the ancient shamanism that you have been studied from your birthland and so on. What are the teachings around this from the ancient shamanistic perspective?
Yeah. Well, you know what I've been particularly enamored with these days is the very first creation of Mother, Father, God, Goddess. And that is wisdom. And wisdom is this energy that moves through us and that animates us. And you could think about that as consciousness. You could think of that as pure, just animating vibration. And when you start to tune into your body, your energy field, as something that is alive with intelligence, it begins to give you access to the code that underlies all of life. And so, if everything is conscious, if everything is wise and intelligent, then even the places that we're stuck have stories to tell and gifts to offer. And so it's like moving from that level of unburdening ourselves with Tehom to moving to the level of becoming aware of these magical divine beings that we are, where every tiny little cell or atom in our bodies is awake and sparkling like a fractal of the divine. So from that perspective, every little, the most minute piece of you is divine, is sparkling with that. And so you could meditate on a single cell of your body, on a single strand of your DNA forever, and it would continue to unlock your gifts. And know that there's nothing in you to be scared of. Everything in you has a gift. And so when you give yourself permission to go to those places that descend, those places that you haven't been going, it will unlock more and more for you. And sometimes you need someone to hold your hand. Sometimes you need to tell your partner or your friend, hey, I'm going somewhere, that I'm not that comfortable with. So will you check in with me? And sometimes you'll have the resources to do it alone, but know that that there are resources around you that can support you in doing this unpacking and reanimating of who you are, this reattuning to the fact that each of us is divine and each of us is here for a purpose. And your purpose is sparkling inside of you and just waiting.
Mm, absolutely. I love what you said there around every single cell being a fractal of the divine. And that just brings such beautiful imagery of every single cell just radiating, shining with its own divinity. That is then, of course, making up the whole as well. So it's a really, really beautiful image to meditate with and do some self-reflection around. Because if we really truly grasp that, then we really start to understand how powerful we are.
Yes, yes. And this, as the age of divine, of sacred feminine power, this is the time when we start to remember that. We've been fed a story of smallness and separation and fear for so long. And so these conversations help us to tune into what is present inside of us, which is why I'm so grateful that you're doing this work, Emmy. It's so important.
Bless you. Straight back at you, Miriam, as well. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would love to know a little bit more. I know that you are working on a new course that's all about the paths within the Kabbalah. Apologies for my pronunciation of that. But would you please share a little bit more about that? Because I know it has to do with the heart, and then also Sophia, the wisdom goddess as we know her as.
Yes. So when we look to the Kabbalah or the Kabbalah, Kabbalah means receiving. It is a receptive art. And there is a book in the Kabbalah, the series of Jewish mysticism or Hebrew mysticism that is ancient. Some attribute it to Abraham. But, to me, it feels more like Sarah energy. It feels more like feminine, divine feminine, shamanic energy. And there is a story that is waiting to be unpacked through that divine feminine lens. And that story is about that first creation of the divine, that wisdom, and her 32 paths inside of us. And, in Kabbalah, each letter has a number, a numerical equivalent, and those 32 paths spell the word for lev, which means heart. And these 32 paths are the tree of life, which is us. Each of us is a tree of life. Each of us is a human divine tree. And when we look at the energetic patterns that our heart emanates, we start to see that tree in a torus. So I have an image of a toroidal field, a torus, which is like a donut shape. And our heart is emanating branches and roots at all times. And so we have this sacred architecture inside of us. And when we start to tune into the landscape of it, the nodes, the power centers, and to open them and to unlock them, then we can start to gain access to our deeper mystical gifts. And this is not a path for beginners. This is for people who have been walking the path and are ready to move into a deeper level of mastery. Kabbalah is not a beginner access point. And so if you've been walking the path for a while and are feeling ready to move to that next level of self-knowledge, of self-mastery and power, this will open to you the magical tools that are the building blocks of all of reality. Our very first series, we're going to be doing a series of 3 on the on Sophia, who in Hebrew is known as Chokhmah, the wisdom goddess. And the very first we'll be talking about the magical construction of the world, which we also do every time that we are opening sacred space in order to create a safe container, which shamanically is calling in the 7 directions. But from this Kabbalistic perspective, is creating the world. And so within that potential of that sacred vessel, we then learn to move into deeper communion with the essence of our world, which is us. So, this course is going to be offered as a joint project of the School of Hebrew Shamanism and the Goddess Grail Mystery School, which I also co-facilitate, co-priestess with 2 dear friends and sisters.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I love that you are doing this level of depth in your own studies, in your own mastery, and then teaching this to others as well. And I think it is so very needed. Again, it will help us to remember how powerful we truly are, and to really work with and through our bodies to start to create the kind of worlds that we want to be living in, isn't it?
Yes, we are each the microcosm of the macrocosm. And as that sacred feminine power is rising within us, it's my passion, but it's also like a responsibility to start owning who we are, that we are not these shadow puppets on the walls, of Plato's cave that we've been taught to think that we are. We're actually the divine in human form, the divine made manifest. And it's time to shine.
Awesome. I love how you are bringing that message into the world. Well, how would people find out more about you and this work that you're doing?
Yeah. So my primary website is miriamjkatz.com, miriamjkatz.com. And then I have hebrewshaman.com for the School of Hebrew Shamanism. We have thegoddessgrail.com to learn about that project. I know it's like so many sites, but so many projects, and it just keeps continuing. To grow and to blossom. And to me, that's the beauty of working with the goddess is she calls you into service and then she starts handing you the projects and you can take them or you cannot take them, but eventually they're going to find you. But thankfully I enjoy every moment of it, and I will be her workhorse as long as she needs me to just keep carrying her message forward, which is you are the divine. It's time to wake up to the gorgeousness of who you are.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I understand that you have a gift for our listeners as well.
Oh, yeah. I have a 3-part Kundalini activation. And this is a 3-part attunement that you can do in your own time. It just requires about 20 minutes for each of those moments that you set aside, and then you want to space it out so that you don't have too dramatic of an experience. But Kundalini is that sacred feminine dragon-like fiery energy that lies coiled dormant at the base of our spine until it's called into action. And so as we are going out into the world, being those divine beings that we are, this is a way to activate and empower your physical vessel, your spiritual vessel, so that you can be more of that goddess that you are.
Beautiful. Thank you for offering that to us as well. I can't wait to listen to these recordings myself as well, and I'll let you know what comes through for me as I do that. Is there anything else, Miriam, that's coming through for you right now that you feel would be important for our listeners to hear about?
I'm listening into my body, and what I'm feeling is this really intense kind of energy that is at that sacral chakra, that womb chakra kind of area. And I'm just going to spend a moment with it. The message is the time is now. And this womb that we've been talking about, this center of creation, that also becomes that place through which the Kundalini energy rises. She is ready. She's ready to come on board. She's ready to be activated. And so if you're feeling that call as you're tuning in, the answer is to trust yourself, to trust your emotions, and to take that next step. So whether that's activating your Kundalini, and I would love to hear, how that goes for you. A lot of people have more intuitive gifts come on board, more of their own essential power and essential nature. But to really trust yourself and trust your body. And when your body speaks to you, to listen. We don't, we've been taught to numb, to take medicine. If there's a pain or a sensation, every sensation in your body is a divine message. And so really listening is a way to serve the goddess in you.
Yeah, such an important point to make as well. And as you say, we have been taught to pop a pill or take an injection the moment we start to feel pain or something doesn't feel right inside our bodies. And if we only learn to kind of go within and speak to those parts of us that are asking to be heard, asking to be seen and recognized and validated, we would be doing life in a very, very different way.
That's right. And that's the revolution that starts within. It's a quiet revolution. It's a revolution of listening, of heeding your own internal call and trusting yourself. And that has the power to break this old patriarchal paradigm right down, because the paradigm is about pretending, it's about silencing, it's about sticking your fingers in your ears and acting the way you've been told to act. But your body is this wise vestige of energy, of wisdom, of divine intelligence. So listen, she wants to be heard.
Yeah, so very true. And in a world where, again, we have been conditioned to think that the almost the only way to do life again is to work in an office setting from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or even later. And you really start to understand how systematically destructive that is to our bodies, to our innate essence. By the end of we finish our working day, we are so tired and so numbed out that we have absolutely no desire to do any deeper level work at all. And so many of us are coming in line, as you said, and it's just beautiful to be alive at this time and be able to witness these incredible changes that are happening.
They absolutely are. And every moment that you reclaim for yourself, for your own spirit, for your own inner work or outer work, creating art, dancing, singing, doesn't matter what the outcome is, what it looks like or sounds like from the outside. Just allow your spirit that opportunity to move. And these are the kinds of practices that will continue to grow your own capacity to express yourself. So it doesn't have to be dramatic. It's just breadcrumbs. The goddess communicates through breadcrumbs. And the more you follow those breadcrumbs, the more you'll be fed, and they become cake crumbs and chocolate or whatever you love. And they become the most delicious offering. And so we don't need to have a huge sign on the highway telling you what your next move is. It's just, what do you feel called to? What does your heart most crave or desire? And how can you give that to yourself in a way that feels manageable and accessible? And just following those heart crumbs will unfold your life into the most magical way. I'm sure, anyone who's been on this show having these conversations has followed those breadcrumbs into this magical place. And now we get to communicate with each other from halfway across the world or all the way, however you measure that. And it's so like, what a gift to connect with like-hearted people who are on the path.
So very true. Thank you for expressing that so beautifully and graciously as well, Miriam. And yeah, thank you for the work that you do. Many, many blessings on your path, and really appreciate who you are and how much you hold and how much you bring into the world as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Emmy. Thank you for lighting up all of these hearts around the planet. I'm just like so awed and so honored to be a very tiny breadcrumb in that.
Oh, bless you. I'm sure it's not just a tiny breadcrumb. Blessed be. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Let's take just a moment to really focus on these powerful energies and frequencies that have been activated during this conversation. And imagine sending these energies to everyone and everything on our planet to remember that we are all truly one. And the more of us that have the courage to step into our sacred feminine power and to start to truly remember how divine we indeed are, the more we are supporting the healing and ascension process of our planet as well. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening.